Hello everyone, and welcome to TutelaGeek. On today's video, we are going to have a first introduction to formulas. We're going to start simple and see how to initiate a calculation, how to calculate using symbols, and then we will see how to use very simple but commonly used formulas. I'm going to show you some easy tricks on how to replicate the formulas quickly, along with everything you need to know if you're just getting started with using Microsoft Excel formulas. If you're totally new to Microsoft Excel, I have another video I would recommend you to go and check out first, which is the introduction of Microsoft Excel, and it gives you an one-on-one introduction on how to navigate Microsoft Excel for the first time. However, if learning about basic formulas is something that you're interested in, let's get started. Let's begin by learning how to initiate a calculation. In order to let Microsoft Excel know that we are initiating a calculation, we need to click on a cell and start typing one of the following symbols: equal, or plus, or minus, which is going to turn my formula into a negative one, so be careful with that. And we can even use forward dash to initiate a formula. My symbol of choice is equal because it is simple. I'm avoiding the confusion that might arise with minus, and it is what I'm used to using. But you can use whichever symbol you're comfortable with. There are two ways we can create a calculation in Microsoft Excel while using symbols. The first way is to type equal and then type 3 plus 5. We press enter or we click on another cell and we get the result 8. If we click back on the same cell, we see the result of our calculation, which is 8. But on the formula bar, we can see the calculation we have made. If we want to edit this cell, we can double-click on it, or while having it selected, we can go and edit it on the formula bar, or while having the cell selected, we can press F2. The second way we can make a calculation is by having the numbers I want to use written on different cells and select those cells instead of typing the numbers each time. For example, we have one cell that has the number 3 and one cell that has the number 9. We can delete the previous formula, select the cell, type equal, and instead of typing 9 minus 3, we can actually go and click the cell we wrote 9 on, type minus, and then click on the cell that says 3. Press enter, and it gives us the number 6. Both ways work. We can either type the numbers ourselves, which for big files doesn't make sense, or we can select the cells we want to work with, which is going to be very beneficial for reasons you will understand further down in the video. To quickly overwrite a cell, all we have to do is have it selected and start typing what we need. In this case, we type equal and it deletes the original text and starts over. If I did that by mistake and I don't want to lose the previous text, I can press escape while I'm still editing the cell and it goes back to where it was. The next calculation we will do is division. We type equal 9 forward dash 3 and we get the result 3. The multiplication symbol is the asterisk. So we type 9 times 3, which is 27, or we can calculate the power of a number by using the caret symbol. Here, I made a mistake, so I press escape and I type 9 to the power of 3, which results to 729. One thing I noticed while working on this video was that if we select a cell instead of typing the number and then try to type the caret symbol, it's not going to take it. And then if I click on 3, it's not going to show up either. The quick fix I found with this while I was playing around is to type the caret symbol twice and then delete it once. I'm not sure why this happens, but let me know down in the comments if you have more information about it. But anyway, we do the calculation and get the result 729. And that concludes how we can use symbols to make calculations on Microsoft Excel. The next step is to show you some simple formulas that I think are very useful to everyone regardless of your level. We're talking about formulas I'm practically using every single day at work, and in order to show them properly, we will need some more data. Let's say we have a store that sells clothes, and we need to track some information in order to have a better idea of our business and what we sell. So we have the product number, the department this product belongs to. Is it women clothes, men clothes, kids clothes, etc.? We have the category, and then we have the color, which helps identify the products easier. We can, of course, add our inventory and any other information we want, but I will keep it simple for now. Then we have the sale price, which means that this is the price I'm selling this to my customers, and the cost, which is the price this garment costs for me to buy or create. The first and most commonly used formula in Microsoft Excel, at least for me, is the sum formula. It's practically the same as using the plus symbol, but instead of typing things like this plus this plus this, which is going to take a lot of time, what we can rather do is type equal sum, and then we need to open the parentheses, or we can double click on the formula we want from the suggestions, which is going to open the parentheses for us. Important note here is that every single formula on Microsoft Excel takes place within parentheses, which means that once we type the formula name, we have to open a parenthesis, and when we are done with the formula requirements, we have to close the parenthesis. We type sum, open the parenthesis, and we click and drag to select the cells that we want to include. We can see that the total cost of every different type of clothing we have is 320 euros. Sum is one of the formulas that has a keyboard shortcut, and instead of typing it, you can go to an empty cell and press Alt and equal, which creates the formula, and it also gives us a recommendation of potential numbers we can use on this specific spreadsheet. The next thing I would like to show you is how to replicate a formula quickly. This becomes very helpful when we have consecutive rows or columns where we can use the same formula. Here, we have the cost price next to the sale price. And since we calculated the total cost price, we can extend the formula to quickly calculate the total sale price as well. We bring the cursor to the bottom right of the cell that has the formula on, where the cursor changes shape and it becomes this thin black plus sign. We click on it and drag it to the left. When we drag it to the left, it calculates the exact same rows on the column to the left of the original one. The calculation moves with the formula as we extend it to the left. We can do the same thing to the right by deleting the original formula, and then we can click the bottom right of the cell again and drag it to the right or up or down, and now we can see how this can become quite useful. Let's pretend that the sale prices are after VAT or any sort of tax to keep it simple, and we want to see how much profit we're making from each garment. We create a new column called Profit and make sure to add filter on it as well. I have a deep dive video on filters. Go check it out. It is very useful when it comes to preventing common mistakes. To show you quickly how to add filters on the new column, we first need to unfilter all our columns, and then we filter again to have the profit included. To calculate the profit, we type equal sale price minus the cost. If we want to do this for every single row quickly, we can either use the method I just showed you, where we click and drag the formula all the way down, or we press Ctrl-Z to undo what we just did, and we go to the exact same corner where we normally click and drag, but what we do instead is double-click, which is going to fill out my entire column until my formula runs into the point where both cost and the sale price are blank columns, and there it stops. This is useful information because you can quickly fill out a full column without too much effort. The next formula we can use is average. It can be used for cases where we want to see what is the average sale price of our garments. And we type equal average and select the cells whose average we want to find out. We can see that the average sale price is 29.36 euros. Another way where we can quickly select as many rows as we want is to start calculating average, select the first sale price, and then press Ctrl, Shift, and the down arrow. or the corresponding arrow to where the direction of your selection needs to go. This is going to select all of my rows up until it finds a blank cell. If this cell didn't have a price and we calculate average again using the same method, we press Ctrl-Shift-Down and we can see that it stopped on the cell before the blank one. We press Ctrl-Shift-Down again and we see that it found the first written cell and stopped. So we have to press it once more to get the full selection and the new result that is 29.09 euros. An important thing to highlight is that all of the formulas and calculations on Microsoft Excel are dynamic. If we change any of the components of the formula, the result is going to change automatically. For example, when we delete the 24 euros, the result changes. Or if we change it to 150 euros, it will redo the calculation, and we can see that we don't need to be fully aware of the formulas, because if we change the components, they will redo the calculation and give us the new result automatically. One more formula we can see together is the mathematical power. We will need two numbers, let's say 5 and 3. The name of the formula is power, and the first input we need is the number. We press semicolon, and then we choose the power. We want 5 in the power of 3. We press enter, and we get the result 125. For square root, I believe there is no symbol, but correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. So we can use the square root formula by typing SQRT, and all we need is a number, so we choose 125, and we get 11.1803. One note here is that you can use formulas as input to other formulas. This is the power formula, which we use to calculate the square root formula. If we change the 3 to 5, both of our calculated cells will change values, which is good to keep in mind. The next big chapter on everyday formulas everyone can use is the count formulas. And today we will see 3 different variations, which, as the name suggests, count how many cells there are under specific circumstances. We will not see the count ifs today. This is coming later on a dedicated video. We can begin with the first variation, that is the plain count, which tells us how many cells we have chosen that have numbers on them. We type count and choose a section of our data, and we see that we get the result 3. If we come to cell H2, type any letters and you will still get the result 3, since this is not a number. But if we type a number instead, my result will change to 4. The next variation we will explore together is count A. We choose an empty cell and type equal count A and choose the same selection of data as we did with count. And we see that we get the result 4, which means that count A calculates how many cells are not empty. This is why count formula returns a result 3, while count A returns a result 4. Our final variation is COUNTBLANK. We type the formula and we use the same selection of cells as before, plus the cell I2, which is blank. We get the result 1 because, as the name suggests, COUNTBLANK counts the amount of blank cells in our selection. COUNTBLANK can be very useful if we want to do a quick sanity check on our data in the case where we should be making sure we have no blank cells. One note here is to make sure you don't select a full column from the letter because it will obviously have blanks. Just select the data of column E, for example, and we get 0. The next formulas we will check out are minimum, maximum, and median. And we want to calculate these 3 for sale price, cost, and profit. For minimum, we type min, we choose the top sale price, and press Ctrl-Shift-Down to quickly select the full column, and we see that the lowest price product we sell costs 10 euros. We move the formula over, and we see that the lowest cost of products we have available is 3 euros, and the lowest profit we are making is 3 euros as well. In order to calculate the maximum, we type equal max and choose the column we want, and we see that the most expensive product we sell costs 50 euros. the most expensive cost we're getting for our product is 15 euros, and the highest profit we're earning is 42 euros. As we're going through the median, it will be good to give you a reminder on what to do when you do not know or remember what a formula does. The first step to get more information is, as we type the formula median, there is a short explanation. Returns the median or the number in the middle of a set of given numbers. If we're still not certain, we can come up to the formula bar and press the insert function, where it's going to open a window with full instructions on the formula we wrote. In this case, the explanation is the same, but then it's giving you instructions on how to actually fill out this formula. Moving on, let's pretend that we have a store that sells clothes and it is sales season, so we want to discount all of our products by a certain percentage to attract more customers and offload our warehouse. We can achieve this in two different ways. We create a column over here where we will have our discounted sale price. If I want to discount all our products by 10%, there are two ways we can do it. The first one is to start typing equal, choose the sale price, type multiply, and open parentheses, and type 1 minus 0.1, which is our discount. We are using the parentheses because we want to isolate the subtraction from the multiplication in order to avoid mistakes. So we remove 10% from our original sale price, and we double-click on the bottom right corner of our cell to replicate the formula in all products. The second way we can do this is by going to another cell outside of my data table, use as title discount, and type 10%. So what we can do is that instead of typing the number, we can click on the cell that has it. We press enter and we get the same result. But if we try to replicate the formula for all our products, the price remains undiscounted. This happens because the formula keeps going down, so we will need to block the formula and make it not move below the discount cell. How do we do this? Our very good friend here is the dollar sign. There are three forms of using the dollar sign, and each one of them is serving a different purpose. The first one is when we want a specific cell in our formula to be static in one position and not move at all, no matter how we're moving and auto-filling out our formulas. All we have to do is when we type our formula, we go next to the cell indicator and press F4, or add manually two dollar signs, one before the letter, M in this case, and one before the first number, which is 1 in this case. We press enter, and now when we autofill the formula, our product will have a discounted price. The way it works is that the dollar sign before the letter locks the formula on a specific column, which brings us to the second form of using the dollar sign, where we remove it from the number and keep only the one before the letter. When we autofill the formula to the right, it's going to take my cost and give it a 10% discount, but if we try to move the formula down, the discount is not applied and the cost remains intact. The third form we can use a dollar sign, as you can imagine, is by keeping it only before the number, and by autofilling the formula to the right, it will move the cell to the right as well, but if we move it down, it will remain stable. To recap here, a dollar sign before the letter of our cell will keep it on the same column no matter how we autofill the formula. A dollar sign before the number will keep it on the same row, but a dollar sign before the letter along with a dollar sign before the number will keep the cell unmoving altogether. And to wrap this up, I mentioned earlier that if we press F4 in our formula, two dollar signs will be added. What I did not mention is that if we press it multiple times, it will give us all the possible alternatives. Dollar signs, one to the number, one to the column, and no dollar sign. If you have any questions, write them down in the comments and I'll respond and try to explain this even more. The final thing I would like to show you is actually two things. The first one is the round function, which is something I'm using quite a lot. And the second one is how to add formulas within formulas. Let's continue with the discount prices we created. We have our prices, but we want them to be rounded in order to look better for our customers. We can do that with the round formula, and there are 3 variations of it: the round down, and the round up. And we choose which one we want according to our current situation and preferences. The round is using the standard rounding rules. We type round, we select the number we want to round, and then we choose how many decimals we want. For the discounted price, we want 0 decimals. We can choose as many decimals as we want or need, depending on what we want to do and what makes sense for our data. Since the round formula is using the standard rounding rules, it will turn the 24.3 to 24 and the 31.5 to 32. However, if we want to affect these rules because we want to have a minimum of 10% discount, we can use the round down, which will give me 39, 24, and 31 instead. Finally, there is the round up, which we can use if we are worried for the profits, for example. We type equal, round up, and choose 0 decimals. And then the results are 40, 25, and 32. We already have the formula that calculates the discounted sale price. Nothing is stopping us from adding the rounding formula on top of it. My tip here, if you're a beginner on stacking formulas on top of each other, is to start from inside and go out. For example, we will first type the formula that's giving us the discounted price, which is already done, and then to add the round formula, we come at the beginning of the formula, right after the equal sign, and we start typing round. And once it shows the formula suggestions, we choose round down. What we can see here is that we have the round formula, an open parenthesis, and our original formula inside of it. The last thing we need to do is to go at the end and look at the instructions. We filled out the number with the discounted price formula, and then we type semicolon, choose the number of digits we want, which is 0, and then we need to close the parentheses. The only thing you should be aware of, which is the most common mistake when we're using formulas inside of other formulas, is to have proper parentheses. And here, the short formula instructions we just used can be very helpful. We see that our price is both discounted and rounded. One final thing here is that when Excel is calculating formulas using existing columns and rows, it is going to include filtered out or hidden rows as well, which is good to keep in mind. To give you an example, this is the average of our discounted prices, which I'm actually going to move up here. If we decide that we want to show only the rows that have blue color, the average we'll calculate will not change. Even if we don't display all of the rows, the formulas will still calculate all of the cells within the range we chose. Now we're going to recalculate the same formula while we have a filter on. What we see here is that the range goes from H2 to H32. The average changed not because it's not calculating the cells in between, but because the last visible cell is the 32, while we have 37 cells, which means that we are missing 5 cells. The point I'm trying to make here is that when we're making calculations and use formulas, it is recommended to make sure there are no filters on our data before we get started. That can be done very easily if we come to the top right of the Home tab, press on the Sort and Filter, and choose Clear. And now we can see that the range chosen while having filters on was incorrect. Another note here is that there is an entire tab dedicated to formulas we can reference. The insert function over here is the same as pressing the formula button below the ribbon. It will show us the full list of formulas, and we can also search for formulas. If we wanted to find the square root of a number, but we don't know the actual name of the formula, we can type root, press go, and it shows us all the relevant results. On the Formulas tab, we can also find the AutoSum button, which if we expand gives us the average number, max, mini, which are basic and commonly used formulas. The recently used button is great if we want to quickly reuse formulas and we are not very familiar with typing them quickly. Also, feel free to explore and play around with the rest of the formula categories offered on this tab. For example, finance formulas, some logical ones like if-error, but we will check out some of them on the next video. And to mention this once again, we can get quick info about a formula if we hover over it with our mouse. Then we have lookup and references. We also have math, which can be useful for students, etc. So that's all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you think this was useful, make sure to subscribe and like this video. Also turn the notifications button on for more content like this. Thank you for watching. See you on the next one. Bye!